Oftentimes, you read something and you really do not know if you're pronouncing it right. That's because the vowels are pronounced many different ways. So you can see the A vowel, but it can be pronounced as an A, or as an A, or as an ow, right? There are so many ways to pronounce even just one vowel, but the representation and the way that it's written, the letter, it's only written one way, but it can be pronounced so many different ways. Hey there, it's Lena Lewinsky. I'm a Polish-American speech-language pathologist, accent coach, educator, and a serious fuzzy sock lover who won the cutest accent award in high school. I share my best tips on how to find your voice, speak with confidence, speak English like a boss, and I also share inspiring stories from successful world citizens who bring their expertise on topics like business, entrepreneurship, marketing, wellness, mindfulness, and more. I want to empower you to believe in yourself, get out there, take action, pursue your dreams, and become the version of you were born to be. So put on your headphones or tune up the volume because you don't want to miss a thing. Oh, and make sure you subscribe to the show so you never miss an episode. This is the Accented World Podcast. Well, hey there. Welcome to the Accented World Podcast, episode number 50. What? I honestly cannot believe that I'm saying this because when I started this podcast in June of last year, I really didn't know what to expect. It was just something that I've wanted to do for about 2 years before I had the guts to actually hit record, but I didn't really know what to expect from this project of mine. I do have to say though, it's been quite a ride. I met some of the most incredible people. I got to interview some really incredible entrepreneurs, activists, wellness experts, and most importantly, immigrants and first-generation Americans and world citizens, people who I wanted to give a voice to, people whose stories I really wanted to share. The amount of incredible conversation that I was able to have on this show have been mind-blowing to me. I'm so proud of this project. But besides getting to talk to so many incredible people, I have to highlight that this show has been transformative for me personally. If you do not know my story, I moved to the US when I was almost 15 years old and I didn't really speak much English. And when I came here, I felt like I had lost my voice. I had lost my confidence. I was taken out of my comfort zone from my little town in Poland. I lost my friends. I lost my family. I left my dog behind. It was quite traumatic at first when I moved. And because it was so hard for me to adjust at first, and it took me a while to learn the language and speak at a level where I felt comfortable to speak around my American friends, I feel like that played a big role in how much I felt I couldn't express myself freely. I felt like something was sort of stuck in my throat in a way when I tried to speak my mind for years and years and years. But when I started this podcast, I didn't know how instrumental of a role it would play in my self-esteem, in getting my voice back, in getting this feeling that I can talk to anyone and in front of anyone, because I was able to express myself in front of so many incredible people, which gave me the confidence to do that in my life. And don't get me wrong, it took me a while to get to that level of comfort. I was scared out of my mind when I was recording some of the first episodes of the Accented World podcast. I needed to have questions in front of me and just read off of them. I didn't feel like I could contribute much to the conversation. It wasn't until, I don't even know which episode, but it took me a long time to get to the point where I felt confident behind that mic. It was quite a journey, but it was very well worth it. If you struggle with your confidence while speaking, you should find your Accented World podcast, whatever it is that is going to help you with your confidence level, because the world is waiting to hear you speak. Don't make it wait too long. I'm so grateful to the Accented World podcast, and I hope that you have also liked the show and enjoyed listening to it as much as I loved recording it. And I'm not done yet. I still have a lot of episodes that I want to put out, and even though it's been such hard work, because it truly has been. I don't know if you realize how much post-production work that goes into a podcast recording. I had no idea when I started this project, but I've had some help along the way, and my husband has been so great at helping me edit some of my episodes. So it's been such a fulfilling ride being able to do this, and I cannot wait to show you what else is coming your way. Thank you for listening every week. Thank you for being here. You truly are what makes this show the most special, because without listeners, there will be no show. So I'm so grateful to you, and I hope that you continue to listen to this show and that you continue to enjoy it as much as I have enjoyed recording it. And thank you for tuning in week by week. All right, now let's get into today's show. Hey there, it's Lena, your accent coach and speech language pathologist, helping multilingual entrepreneurs speak, sell, and coach in English with confidence. I was thinking really hard about what to talk about this week because I want to think of stuff that is going to help you not only in your English, not only in your accent, but also in your business. Because there's so many things we need to do as business owners and as entrepreneurs, and I feel like the list never runs out. So this week I had an idea to talk about brand names and app names and the names of things we use in our business. So things like Instagram and Gmail, and to help you make sure you are pronouncing these names correctly. Because since we use these words quite often as entrepreneurs, it's important that we have the confidence we need to say them, to know that we are saying them the right way. I used to mispronounce brand names all the time, and I'm pretty sure I still do once in a while, especially if it's something that I haven't heard before or it's a brand new name. To me, sometimes it's just not intuitive, because that's the problem with English. You don't say it the way that you read it, right? It's very different from Spanish. You read Spanish and you know exactly how to pronounce it if you're familiar with the language, because it's written or it's said the same way that it's written. But in English, that's not the case. Oftentimes, you read something and you really do not know if you're pronouncing it right. That's because the vowels are pronounced many different ways. So you can see the A vowel, but it can be pronounced as an A, or as an A, or as an ow, right? There are so many ways to pronounce even just one vowel. But the representation and the way that it's written, the letter, it's only written one way, but it can be pronounced so many different ways. We always have the long and the short vowel, as well as so many diphthongs and the schwa and other vowels to think of when we are reading in English. So that's what makes it extra tricky. This was the reason why I decided to talk about brand names, because when you're having meetings, or if you're talking to clients, or if you're talking to other business owners that you have met or you are collaborating with, you want to make sure you're pronouncing these brand names correctly and these app names correctly so that you have the confidence that you need to make that good impression and to show up as the real you. So there's nothing in the back of your mind holding you back. All right. So let's get into it. I compiled a list of brand names and app names that I personally use in my business. So it's not an exhaustive list of things to talk about, but it's just something that was on my mind and was on my computer. So we're going to start with these. And if you wanted me to pronounce extra brands or do another episode on this, I'm happy to do that. But for now, let's focus on these. So let's start with social media, because most of us, especially running our businesses and being immigrants and being international, we communicate with people from all over the world, whether it's our friends or our family or other business owners. So oftentimes now that's done through social media. So a lot of us are using it every day for many different purposes. So the first word I want to talk about, the first brand is Instagram. Instagram. It's not Instagram, right? Because it's the short E at the beginning. So it's Instagram, Instagram, Instagram. It's only 2 syllables, and you're going to stress the first syllable. Instagram, Instagram. Okay, So make sure you're repeating after me as you're hearing these words, okay? So it gives you the extra practice you need. It's always good to say things to practice them because we can think them. We might remember things this way, but remember, if you want to speak with confidence, if you want to say things correctly, you actually have to say them. So thinking them is just not enough because you need to train your muscles the right way. So always repeat after me if you're learning a new word or if it's a word that you're trying to practice and you hear it somewhere, make sure you're repeating. All right. The other social media giant is, of course, Facebook. So this is another 2-syllable word. Facebook. Book. It's the short sound. So it's Facebook. So we're stressing the second syllable and we are pronouncing the short, which to me, when I first started speaking in English, was a really hard sound. So don't get discouraged. Just keep on practicing it if this is also difficult for you. Facebook, right? It's not Facebook, it's Facebook. Okay, another social media giant is Twitter. Another short E sound, right? Twitter. Also a 2-syllable word, interesting. Twitter. You're stressing the first syllable, so it's Twitter. Twitter has that flap T sound, so because we write it with double T, it actually is pronounced sort of like a D, and we don't really stop for that sound, right? So we wouldn't say Twitter. We kind of say it through fast and switch it into a D. So it's Twitter, right? So make sure you are pronouncing it correctly this way, so you're not really emphasizing that T sound, because that will be incorrect and it's going to make you sound more accented. Another social media giant is YouTube, right? It's a search engine really for videos, but we use it so much in our business and in our daily lives that I wanted to make sure it's on the list. So it's YouTube. At the end, we have a B sound. So make sure you're not pronouncing it as a P, so it's not YouTube, right? It's YouTube. We're stressing the first word. It's essentially 2 words that are separate, but they're written together, so it's just 1 word. So we are stressing the first word U. YouTube. Okay, another word that I wanted to add to the list is LinkedIn, especially if you're a business owner. Many people think that it's used for the corporate world just to find a job and network that way, but it's really untrue. There are many entrepreneurs that are on that platform, and it's a lot easier to get yourself visible when you're using LinkedIn just because of the algorithm and the way that it works right now. So it's definitely a platform to be on if you were thinking of building your audience and building up your network. So LinkedIn, it's kind of a complicated word, but because it starts with an L and then it ends with a D that is pronounced. So when we say it a little bit slower, it's LinkedIn. It only has 2 syllables, so it's a very long first syllable, which makes it a little bit more complicated. But you can always slow down in order to make sure you're saying all of these sounds in the first syllable, right? LinkedIn. And it's not LinkedIn, it's in. It's that short E again. LinkedIn. It's both of them. Linked also has a short E at the beginning. All right, that one was not that easy, but just keep on practicing. And if it's a difficult word for you, it will become like second nature the more you practice. I wanted to add WhatsApp into this because it's a growing network in business right now. There are so many people that I know that are doing WhatsApp groups to network and to collaborate with other business professionals. And it's also a very commonly used app internationally, right? I use it to call my sister in Germany often because I know that it's free when you do that through Wi-Fi rather than thinking of plans to buy or rather than looking for cell phone plans that are going to be more affordable. It's always a good option if somebody else has that access to that app. So it's not what's up, right? Because when we introduce ourselves, it's a natural thing to say, hey, what's up? But that's not the word. It's app, right? It's an a So we want to make sure that we are really opening our jaw for that app sound. Ah is the short ah vowel, right? So we're not really prolonging it for too long, but we want to make sure that our jaw is really, really open all the way to get that sound correctly. So it's app. That's the name of this app. It's also a 2-syllable word. All of them are. That's so interesting. We'll be right back with the show. In the meantime, make sure you rate us and subscribe on Apple Podcasts and follow us on Spotify. Woohoo! Thanks for your support. Thank you to Thrive Market for supporting the Accented World podcast. I love paying wholesale prices and save an average of $30 per order when I'm shopping for pantry items, bath and beauty products, home care items, and pet care necessities. Every time I shop at Thrive Market, they offer whole food, organic, non-processed items at a fraction of the price. They make online shopping easy, quick, and stress-free. Get your box of goodies from Thrive Market today at linalevinsky.com/Thrive Market. That's linalevinsky.com/THRIVEMARKET. Thank you to Purple Carrot for supporting the Accented World podcast. I love Purple Carrot. They make planning my weekly meals seamless and stress-free. As a mostly plant-based eater, I get to pick from 8 different meals every week to ensure they satisfy every taste bud in my family. In every Purple Carrot box, you get the exact ingredients that you need, step-by-step instructions of how to cook every meal, as well as time frame of how long it will take for you to prepare them. My husband and I love it when our meals are here because we know we are in for a treat. Head over to linalevinsky.com/Purple Carrot to learn more and to receive a special coupon code to get $30 off your first Purple Carrot delivery. That's linalevinsky.com/Purple Carrot. Okay, now let's move on from social media and let's talk about the computers that we use. So typically we are going to be using a Mac or a Windows computer. So let's talk about Windows first. I'm not a big fan of Windows. I don't really use it. I only use it for work, but I don't prefer to work on those computers personally. But I know there are so many people who love it. It's kind of like an interesting debate. You either love a Mac or you hate it. You either love a Windows or you hate it. It's really interesting. But so we either have a Microsoft Windows computer, Microsoft, that's a 3-syllable word. Microsoft Windows, right? That one might be a little bit easier to say because I feel like window is one of the first words we learn in English classes, right? We learn about window and door and table and all those things. So that might be a little bit easier for you to say, but just to make sure, it's Microsoft Windows. And its business counterpart or its rival is Mac, MacBook, iMac. This one is a short word and it's again that short A sound. So we're going to open our jaw all the way for that Mac, MacBook Pro, iMac. And there are so many different items we use within the Mac family. So we have the iPhone, or the iPad. There are many different items within the Mac family and the Windows family, but I'm not going to specify them unless you want me to. But just to make sure you're using the word Mac correctly, Microsoft, Windows, and iMac, iPad, iPhone. I feel like those are usually used by business owners, or these are the basic items that they usually have. Well, if we're speaking about Microsoft, we are definitely going to talk about Google. It's one of the most popular search engines, or if not the most popular search engine in the world. It's become part of the English or American vocabulary, right? Because we just say Google it to find out. Or I like to call it, I'm going to ask my Uncle Google, right? Because he knows everything. So Google uses the long oo sound, which also makes it a little bit difficult. Like I said, oo was the most difficult vowel for me to learn. The short and the oo and the long oo as well. So if this is something you struggle with, don't worry, just keep on practicing. But Google has 2 syllables, and the first syllable, it's Google. It has a very pronounced L at the end. So it's Google. Google. It's not an easy word, and it's so frequently used. So just keep on practicing, because I feel for me, it's like a muscle workout in a way, right? Because I was definitely not used to using my muscles this way before I learned English. So it's something to practice and continue to teach ourselves, our mouth really, on how to pronounce it correctly. So it's Google, right? And we have a Google calendar. That's a 3-syllable word. And we also have Gmail, which you don't really have to pronounce as Google because it is Google Mail, but we usually shorten it to G. Gmail. Mail is just a 1-syllable word, so we're pronouncing it kind of like if you're thinking about E and Y, mail, right? Even though it's written differently. English strikes again. It's just not super intuitive. Okay, now there are some organizational apps that people use, and depending on you, I love to get organized, even though I'm usually disorganized, but I just love organizational things and stationery stuff and apps in general. But everybody has a different preference. So I personally am now using Airtable that my dear friend recommended, and I love it. So if you're not familiar with that app, you can look it up, but it's pronounced Airtable. Airtable. And it's kind of combining two very popular words that we use in English language, so it makes it a little bit easier to pronounce, but it's Airtable. You can also be using Asana, which is another organizational app, Asana, or Trello, Trello. It has that TR sound at the beginning, but you're not pronouncing it as Trello, right? That does not going to work. It's actually Trello. It's almost like you're pronouncing it as the ch sound. Trello. It's a Trello. A lot of people love their Trello boards and moving things around on their Trello boards. So all of these words, Asana and Trello, are 1-syllable words, and it's really just about getting those consonants and vowels correctly. Another app that is pretty popular now, especially if you're communicating with a team or different members of pods or business partners, is Slack. So Slack is a little bit difficult to pronounce because it has that S and an L cluster. So you want to make sure you're pronouncing that correctly. Slack. You have to pronounce both of these sounds. Slack, right? And then we have that short ah again. So your jaw has to open all the way. Slack. Okay, moving on to a few more things. I wanted to make sure we discussed the most popular video app out there, video communication, and that is Zoom. It has that ooh sound, right? And has a Z at the beginning. And we want to make sure we are saying the M at the end as well. So it's a short word, but you want to make sure you're saying it with an impact and you're pronouncing every single sound within it. So it's Zoom. Not Zoom, not an S sound at the beginning, has a Z, so you want to make sure your vocal folds are vibrating right when you're pronouncing that Z. Zoom. Also just 1 syllable for this one. Okay, I wanted to talk about course producing or course hosting platforms, because as you guys know, I have a course that is coming out very shortly. It's called Speak English Like a Boss, and I will be hosting it on New Zenler. It's a new hosting platform. It's relatively new. I think it's only a year or 2 old. I might be wrong on this one, but it's new to the market compared to the other ones. And I love it because I got it for the beta price for the pro account. So I don't really know exactly how it works yet, but I'm hoping that it's going to deliver exactly what I need. Because it's so easy to spend your money on all these expensive programs and softwares and apps and all these things that you really don't need, I feel like, at the beginning. Scale with your business, right? You don't want to be in debt when you're starting out, because it's really easy when you see all these flashy apps and programs that everybody's using and you think you need it to grow, and you don't. So you got to start off with yesterday's money, not tomorrow's money. It's the money that you actually have and you can support yourself with, not the money that you think you're going to earn by getting on all of these platforms and apps. Okay, so like I said, I'm using New Zenler. So New Zenler are 2 separate words, and Zenler is 2 syllables. But I want to talk about new. It's a very commonly used word in English, but I hear it pronounced 2 different ways, and it's totally fine to do that. It could be pronounced as new, right? Just the sound N at the beginning, new, or you can add a "y" afterwards. It could be new Zenler. Either one is totally fine, so don't feel like you're mispronouncing it. Both of these versions are totally fine. New Zenler. It's not an easy word because it has a Z at the beginning and it has an L and an R at the end, that American R, which is a little bit tricky, but just keep on practicing and I'm sure you're going to get it just fine. New Zenler. And then another one, which is much more high priced and very popular among course creators, is Kajabi. It's not even really an English word, but it's a brand and it's pronounced in English. So I want to make sure to add it here because it's so popular and I hear it all the time, especially as a course creator and a student of course creation. So it's called Kajabi. It's 3 syllables, Kajabi. Ka at the beginning. It's a K sound. You want to make sure you're pronouncing that. Kajabi. It's actually not that complicated, I think, but I just wanted to make sure to pronounce it here. And if it is difficult for you, don't worry, just keep on practicing and repeating it. Like I've been kind of repeating myself about this whole time, but it is the key to speaking the right way, right? Or improving your accent. Okay, there's only a few more words that I want to talk about, and it has to do with podcasting because of course, I'm a podcaster. We're here today, but I wanted to make sure if you're a podcaster or if you are talking about podcasting, which is such a huge part of running a business and building an audience or getting yourself out there, getting your name out there if you're guesting on a podcast. So I wanted to make sure that you knew how to pronounce a few words that are associated with it and a few brands associated with it. So first of all, it's podcast. Pod, not pod. It's a podcast. Podcasting, right? So I want to make sure you say that correctly. And then here are a few brands that I want to talk about. First is Apple Podcast, right? These are the streaming platforms where the podcasts are usually available. You might be listening on Apple Podcast or Spotify. Of course, there's different streaming platforms as well, but those are the 2 main ones. So that's what I wanted to cover here. So Apple, you want to make sure it's the short A, so you're opening your mouth all the way for Apple. Apple Podcast and Spotify. 3 syllables here. Spotify. This is another one of those flap T's, so it's really pronounced as a D. Spotify. It's not Spotify. Spotify. Okay, so I think this about covers it when it comes to our brands for today. I wanted to make sure you got some really good words in there. Extra practice, because practicing is key and speaking is key. Once again, I can't say that enough. And I hope that you enjoyed today's episode and that it was helpful to you. And if you have any questions or any comments, I'm always excited to hear from you. So make sure you send those to me through a DM on Instagram at lena.levinsky. Or if you are on my mailing list, you can send me an email or just comment right on the show notes for today's episodes, because I'm always happy to hear from you and to talk to you. And if you feel like this was a helpful episode and anybody else wanted, and if you wanted to share that with your friends or your audience or anybody, if you tag this post on Instagram or Facebook or anywhere you are active, I would really appreciate it. Any love for my little show just makes my day. Okay. Well, thank you so much for tuning in today. And remember, no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, just keep on being unapologetically yourself. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Accented World podcast. I know I did. The time flew by and the lessons were so valuable. Please make sure you rate the show and subscribe so you never miss an episode. If you want to continue the conversation or share your takeaways, I want to hear from you. Head on over to my Instagram at lena.levinsky and comment on your favorite part. For show notes and the offers from today's show, head to lenalevinsky.com/podcast.